Africa is rich in farmland. But then again, why is it so hungry? Let us dive in. Let us find out. Hello and welcome. You are watching AILTV and I'm a man called Jay. In this video, I am with a man called Temitope Olodo, the man who knows a lot of things. And in this video, we are going to be talking about food security. Now, the question is, if Africa is rich in farmland, how come that we are hungry all the time? Temitope Olodo on the screen.
Thank you
Yes,
so much for having me
Temi.
once again, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Good. You know, we have spoken about so many things.
Yeah.
We've spoken about security. We have spoken about terrorism in Africa. But you see, what bothers me, as we will discover, Africa is always hungry. There is always hunger in Africa. So now we really want to figure out what is the cause of this. And it looks like even with all the insecurities of terrorism, uh, countries fighting one another, cattle rustling and all that, actually it ties in with this food security thing. Just give us an insight of why this is happening. Then we can actually go and look at uh, what land is arable and how big it is and how many people are suffering. So give us a little bit of an insight to this question.
Thank you so much, and a welcome message to all our viewers. It's sad that Africa, which is meant to be the basket of the world, food basket of the world, is unfortunately caught up in a web of challenges that makes food security a serious matter. Apart from the fact that at least 10 out of the 50 countries or 50 plus countries in Africa are actually in current conflict. Conflict means that people can't go to their farm. It means that food cannot be produced, and it means hunger in the land. People are displaced from their farms, and it's very difficult. But not only is there you know, armed conflict, there's also political instability in some countries. So even though the countries that say they are running democracy are not actually succeeding in running democracy because there's so much opposition here and there. So there's so many factors that are responsible for food security challenges in Africa. But the major of it is conflict, and the solution we need is more of education, more of political intervention to ensure um, political stability so that people could prosper and things could go the right way. Unfortunately, we're not in that situation. There's so much conflict, so much pressure that it's difficult to maintain food security in Africa.
So let us have a look at this. So here, when we look at this document here, well, this is actually from the Food Agriculture Organization, and this is part of the United Nations agency, and this is there to fight hunger and all that. But it's saying Africa's arable land increased by 52% in 20 years. So that is according to the study. So therefore, as it says there, the arable land currently is 1 point, no, before it increased. Now by 20, but from 2014 From 2000 to 2003,
yeah.
it increased to 1.24 billion. But before, previously, it was 1.14 billion Arab hectares. Now you can actually see. I know I'm scuffling a little bit because I'm trying to imagine 1.2 billion acres. That is a massive land, and it looks like the food that is where is this food that is the people grow? Where does it go?
It's funny enough you asking that question because as we speak, the capital of Nigeria, which is Abuja, the residents decide to take the law into their hands and enter, into a government institution where they've kept, palliatives or food, which are meant to be distributed to disaster zones, but people have decided to go there and help themselves. Question is that, you know, why is it that we're having this situation where we don't have enough land and we still do not know the reason why we're having that problem? Many analysts have explained or provided a narrative to explain that there might be a serious uh, political interference in getting to that kind of environment. We have a situation where only 1.2, only 1.24 billion hectare land has been cultivated. Now, what happened to the 79% of the population of the lands that have not yet been cultivated? And why are they not being cultivated? Why are we still using, analog approach to deal with a digital society where things could be used, where, even if a small country like Israel is able to do a lot of things for themselves, and yet we're unable to do it for ourselves, that calls to question the kind of leadership we have that is helping us with the agricultural revolution in Africa.
Here is another figure which is really shocking. 282 million people in Africa,
Yeah.
that is almost to 20% of the population,
Yeah.
are under nourishment,
Hmm.
and an increase of 57 million people by the way, this is just recent. This is since the COVID-19 pandemic began.
Yeah.
Yeah. So more than a billion people, they are saying, are under, yeah, are unable
Yeah.
to actually even to have a proper meal, and children are staying. That is a very big figure. Now, then, okay, this actually brings us to, we are going to ask a question again. We, where do African leaders, when they see figures like this, what do they think? Or maybe they don't actually care.
See, part of the challenges we have in Africa is data generation is very limited. And when I say it's limited, there are only few government officials, involved in effective research work, and doing their research and informing their principals of the changes in pattern, pages and things that they could look at. What happens in Africa is when the incident has happened, there's that cheap publicity that the officials will come along and take some pictures and force people to take some pictures and post that. But the problem where we have the issue here that we could see is that 57 million people, are getting it rough. The challenge we have is that when 1 billion people are not eating proper nourished food, then we have a problem. People are just eating whatever they want to eat in order to survive. And we're just postponing the health pandemic challenges we're going to have in Africa. I think it is high time that our leaders should come together and actually talk about the proper food security, the challenges of food security, and how to resolve it, because nothing is happening in Africa at the moment when it comes to food security.
So let us have a look at another chart here. This is actually from, when you look at these charts here, you will see the European is all in blue.
Yeah.
And then the African chart is in red, some of it. So you can see there is a small country there at the top, Ireland, which is able to, to sustain this food insecurity. Basically, it is non-existent. In Finland, it is non-existent. So if you look at, try to explain the African chart there.
Hmm.
I don't know
Okay.
whether
Let me.
it is visible to you, because these things can be very
No, no, it
small on
is,
the phone.
and I
Yeah,
think our viewers could see that very clearly what is happening here. On our right hand side, we have all the countries like Finland, Norway, which is always cold, having food security, where countries like Nigeria, Gambia, even South Africa are countries that are really struggling with, you know, hunger, real hunger in real hunger in real life. And yet, we have all the lands, we have all the policies that we're putting in, but they're not effective enough to make us, close the gap. The challenge is, what could Africa do? And you could see Nigeria there and their figures and all the other four countries. What could Africa do to improve, food security? And that is where we need to be looking at, because this is quite depressing. That when you're looking at your right hand side, you're seeing most of the countries in blue, and we're looking, at your left hand side, it just seems like reddish kind of, and very, very, very,
yeah,
very annoying to see that
exactly.
Africa
So
is in state.
those ones in the red, they're actually, they are into extreme
Yeah,
challenges. You see, what I don't understand, let us go back here. What I don't understand, a country like Nigeria, which has got 200, is it 200 and how many millions
yeah.
nowadays?
There's 232 million.
Right. So all this time, what do the leaders really do to combat this problem? Because every leader that comes in, it looks like they are not really concerned about all these issues.
The challenge we have is that our leaders are not living up to expectation. You know as well as I do that money earmarked for, palliatives to support the people, to support the kingdom, got into wrong hands, and the wrong hand is people that will misappropriate those money for their own personal gain. you know, and that is the problem we have. And, many Africans are coming to realize that their leaders are not fit for purpose, because they're not doing the right thing that they need to do, to make sure that they also could get out of this poverty. But you have political leaders and politicians who are not really affected by some of these health challenges that we're talking about. That is
Yeah.
why it's very strange for anybody looking at it. If you look at this graphic that you've just clearly made visible to us, you could see quite well that only 16%, as of the time when this data was recorded, only 60% of, you know, African durable land have been tapped into, while 79% of them, you
Yeah.
know, are unused. So, what is our strategy in the next 5 to 10 years to make sure that many people are coming here? Because authorities have been are doing this, because most of the challenge we have is that we have we have 70 out of 20 Africa countries you know, are very fertile to do what they need to do, but yet Ukraine, a small country again, is coming, to feed Africa and give drains to African countries. So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked.
Yeah, yeah. So let us have, okay. Now, this is very interesting. As you can see, most low profile farmers, they are like this woman here.
Yeah,
Now, this lady here is the person goes every day in the morning, and we don't know, he could be planting maize, he could be planting
yeah,
cabbage and everything. But then another challenge that these farmers have is the soil itself. Even if it is, we are saying that there is a big chunk of an arable land in Africa, but the soil needs to be treated.
yes,
They need fertilizers. So
that's true.
now, when you look at the budget allocated, that is for the entire Africa, is 4%, and even that 4%, sometimes it does not reach them. So now you make a comparison, the budget for agriculture and the defense. You see?
We have a serious challenge, like I mentioned earlier. You know, the challenge we have is that we have leaders that are not acting like leaders, and we have followers that are not acting like followers. Because the biggest challenge to food security in our nation or in our continent is conflict. Second one is conflict. Third one is conflict. The arrogancy of our leaders to think that they can do it alone and achieve what they need to achieve alone is part of the challenges they are confronting now, because we need to have
Mm.
like a 10-year plan on where do we want to go to, how do we get there, and what do we need to do. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury. And you could see, you know, Oxfam making it very clear, and some other notable United Nations making it very clear that we in Africa we need to start feeding ourselves. But unfortunately, we are not in that position now. I don't know when we'll get there.
So, but okay. So now looking at this on the right hand side here, where it says that the majority of the African countries, they have not even met their obligations. So, but again, we keep going back to these African Union. So while people are wondering why there is so much hunger in Africa, and yet in the Western media they actually focus on that. So
Hmm,
much hunger, people are dying. We see them in the train and stuff like. But they do not really go deep and explain these kind of things here.
exactly. And
Yeah.
you can see from the information available and the kind of information in terms of what is expected, African countries are not meeting up to expectation. There is a quota that was given to them in terms of what they expect their education to feel like and look like. They don't do it. Mechanized farming is only who you know that could get you those machines. You have to pay high level of money to maintain it. There's a lot that is making Africa very, very unique as a continent, but not the type to envy at this point in time because of the food security challenges that we're confronted with.
But when we talk about what really surprises me is this: we are always talking about agriculture, and the African leaders know that agriculture is very, very important. But
Hmm,
yet, they are so reluctant to invest in it, to bring in modern technology to make things work. So, when
they-
will
they-
this
yeah,
change?
I think there is need because I know that there is an accord that was signed by African countries, and that accord more or less places an obligation, on the countries in question to do what is right in terms of safety and security and found security their for their nation. The challenge that we have is that even if a government is interested in improving their security challenges, they don't have the money for the mechanic, for the trailers that will come in and do the work. They don't have capital for some of their projects that they want to start. So there's a lot of things happening. A lot of
Mm.
things happening that makes it very difficult for an African leader to really, 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 achieve the goals that they want to achieve, which is, food security, you know, uh, being a problem in the past. Fortunately, they've not been able to achieve that because there's so many reasons behind, farming and food security that we've not been able to tackle it, both from a policy perspective and implementation perspective.
But but maybe uh, what needs to I don't even know to say because I'm running out of words here. So I don't know. I don't know whether is the political will to change the situation, or is it because that they want to keep the situation that way so that they can continue receiving aid? What do you think?
Aid is more like a cost for Africa because it has not really improved anybody's life. But it's essential for those communities that get it because they know government is far away from them and don't help them. And this aid sometimes go to those kind of areas, even though there's allegation that some of those aid, end up, end up where it should not be. It should not be. I think the question now is, what is the solution to all our challenges with regard to food security in Africa, and how could we overcome it? There is need for us to have that debate and have that conversation and to be able to push things forward on that.
Okay, now you see, you are from Nigeria. You we like to talk about Nigeria. How is that possible that Nigeria has failed in this? It has failed really to solve this problem. I know. Look, they you can live without electricity. You can live without any other things, but food, it is impossible not to. So how is that possible that Nigeria has come to this situation?
Unfortunately, there's no consistency in policy. Government come, government go, as they use the slang, back home. These guys come in and promise heaven and earth, and when they go out, they are unable to deliver majority of what they promise. And as a result, people are using self-help to be able to achieve what needs to be achieved. I think the challenge we have is a challenge that there's too much corruption in the system. And in order for you to be able to navigate your way through it and achieve what you need to achieve, uh, there there's corruption challenges that will face you heads on, and you must have a solution for it.
I think what we need to do, because discussing these issues, we need a lot of time, and we need to discuss it maybe in bits. So now we have found
Yeah,
out what it is that the size of the African arable land. Now we know why it is not being cultivated. But next time we want to have an expert to explain
yeah,
what is it exactly that Africa is suffering and why. Okay, we have tried
yeah.
our best because we are not from the United Nations, because United Nations, they have those figures, And maybe one day we will go to Geneva and present our case because we want these questions asked. We
Yes.
do not want the always just to be spoon fed because we are told, oh yeah, you know what, Africa is like this, we agree. Africa is like this, we accept. No, you see, all these. So when you look at the NGOs and stuff, they are doing their jobs. They're doing their jobs. In fact, today I was talking to someone. Funny enough, she has been to Africa. She's been in Gambia, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and she went into Kenya. So, and when Europeans go to Africa, they get emotional charged. They think
Yeah.
that there is something wrong there. What I said to her, look, for you, you are seeing it for the first time, but we have seen it. We are always asking ourselves, what can we do to correct that mistake? You see, you can feel sorry for them, but as soon as you feel sorry for them, they emotionally hijack you and you start giving. And even when you give the money, it does not it does not reach anywhere. So I think again we have you have explained very well, but we will come back. This the issue of security and
Yeah.
and food. They are tied in together because you see here
Yeah.
we haven't even touched about these tribes which are always fighting
Yeah.
over the land. Yeah,
Yeah.
some of
Definitely.
some of them they're just going to fight to steal cattle to go and either sell and stuff like that. Just because of that, yet there is land to be cultivated. So maybe we are taking a simplistic view of things. But
Yeah.
again, thank you very much. Last word again. So now I I'm always asking this. If you were to meet a minister for agriculture, an African, it doesn't matter where they will be from, South Africa, where, what will you ask them and what kind of advice would you give them?
Number one, I know it's not a progressive thinking approach, but I would advise them to look into the issue of storage of food in Africa, especially um, the area where they are responsible for. There is need for training, so people understand exactly information how information needs to be disposed, to achieve the value that they need to achieve. And I believe that if corruption is dealt with and there are targeted and well-established plan on what need to go from one point to another, I think it will be very, very beneficial.
Yes, Temi Tope Olodo. Thank you very much for coming on the program. I'm sure we are going to dig deep and
Thank you so much, sir.
find out what is exactly is going on. Now, let
Thank
me say goodbye to our viewers and we see what comes next.
yes,
So that was Temi Tope Olodo, as always. This time we were trying very hard to tackle the issue of food security. Someone cannot tell me that Africa cannot feed itself. Next time, we are going to come with facts. We are going to go to the markets, village markets, to show you what they grow and what they are capable of doing. They are there doing their things, they are there doing their bit. But we have come to realize that the governments are letting them down. So, until next time, ciao.